Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are tackling a subject today that feels, well, it feels like it was ripped right out of a techno thriller. But as we're going to find out, the reality is a lot less cinematic and a lot more uh, structural. We're looking at a pretty heavy stack of research and notes here. The title is Why Modern Digital Crime Doesn't Require Breaking In. And honestly, that title alone just kind of threw me for a loop. It feels completely counterintuitive.
It's a provocative title, isn't it? But it really, really captures the essence of the shift we're seeing. It challenges the entire mental model most of us have about what it means to be safe online.
It really does. We're so used to thinking about defense in a really specific, almost physical way.
And this research essentially says, throw that out the window.
Okay, so here's our mission for today. We're going to explore why we're so vulnerable right now. And the spoiler is, it's not because our walls are too weak. It's all about how we grant trust. We'll be looking at the death of geography, the massive problem with automation, and why just telling people to be careful simply isn't cutting it anymore.
We need to stop looking for the burglar and start understanding the architecture of the building. That's really the goal here. If you understand how the building is built, you understand why the doors don't work the way you think they do.
Right. And before we jump into the first section of the research, I have to ask you, the listener, when you close your eyes and you think of a cyber attack, what do you see? Be honest. Is it a guy in a hoodie, dark room, green code raining down like in the Matrix, furiously typing, gets smashed through a firewall?
Yeah.
Or do you see someone just logging in? Let us know in the comments what that mental image is for you.
I'd be willing to bet good money most people still see the hoodie. It's iconic.
Oh, absolutely. Hollywood has done a real number on us. But looking at the core premise here on page 1 of our stack, that movie version is just totally outdated. The research argues that modern digital crime isn't about breaking in. It's about these structural shifts in trust, access, and authority.
And that distinction is everything. Breaking in implies a barrier, right? A wall that needs to be destroyed or bypassed. It implies force. But the reality we're discussing today is about systems that are working exactly as they were designed. The lights are on, the doors are working, the badge readers are scanning. But those designs are being exploited.
So it's like walking through the front door because you found the key under the mat, not kicking the door down.
Exactly. And if you have the key, the house welcomes you right in.
Okay, so to understand where we are, we have to look at where we came from. The data here outlines what it calls the outdated security narrative. It says for decades, security strategy was centered on one simple premise: keep attackers out.
This is the perimeter defense model. It's what everyone over a certain age was taught. You have a castle, you build a high wall, you put a moat around it.
Right.
The entire focus is on intrusion detection and breach prevention. You are effectively just watching the wall for cracks.
And the list of what we were defending against, it feels very military. Perimeter security, intrusion and breach, network boundaries. It was so clear-cut you were either safe inside or you were dangerous outside. Not a lot of gray area.
It was clear-cut because the physical world was clear-cut. And that's what the next section highlights, why that model actually worked for a while. It wasn't just a philosophy, it was a reflection of physical reality.
Yeah, looking at this analysis of the old world, it's a total trip down memory lane. We're talking physical servers, fixed networks.
Oh, yeah. Think about it. In the old world, say, in 1999, even 2005, your data lived on a physical beige box in a locked room.
In a locked room.
That room was in a building with a badge reader. The network cables ran through the walls in these predictable copper paths. You could literally trace the wire from your desk to the server.
So inside versus outside wasn't some metaphor. It was real. If you were in the building plugged into the wall, you were inside. If you were in the parking lot, you were outside.
Yeah, precisely. And the most important bullet point there is human-gated access. Every connection required deliberate provisioning. If you wanted access, a human administrator, probably a guy named Dave in IT, had to physically sit down, type in a command, and say, yes, I am allowing this specific person to do this specific thing.
I remember Dave. He was always very strict. So it was slow, it was manual, and it was heavy on geography. But then this quiet shift happened.
I love that phrasing, the quiet shift, because there was no press release. No one announced, okay, everyone, today is Tuesday and we're abandoning the castle model.
It just sort of happened while we were all busy trying to be more efficient. Let's look at the drivers listed here. Cloud workflows, SaaS permissions, email identity, and APIs as glue.
This is just the modernization of business. We replaced those static servers in locked rooms with these orchestrated tasks in the cloud. We stopped building our own software and started, renting it via SaaS software as a service.
And look at email identity. Accounts centered on email addresses. That seems so normal now. I log into everything with my email, but that was a huge structural change, wasn't it?
Massive. Your email became your passport. And then you have APIs as glue application programming interfaces. This just means systems are constantly talking to each other, sharing data, and creating what the research calls implicit access chains.
Implicit access chains. That sounds complicated.
Just think of it like a restaurant. The waiter connects you to the kitchen. You don't go into the kitchen yourself, but the waiter has implied access to go back and forth for you. APIs are the waiters connecting all our different software.
And the kicker at the bottom of this section, nothing broke. The model simply expired.
That is profound. It's not that the old firewalls failed, it's that we moved out of the house they were protecting.
Exactly. We kept the mindset of the castle. We still talk about defending the perimeter, but we moved into a sprawling, open-air market. The architecture just evolved way faster than our threat models could keep up.
Which leads us directly to this next concept, the death of geography. The analysis here says very succinctly, identity replaced location.
This is the pivotal moment. The key phrase is login equals presence.
Yeah, it notes here that tokens travel independently, sessions persist across contexts, trust moves with credentials. Think about what that means practically. In the old days, if a request for data came from an IP address in, say, North Korea, and your office is in Chicago, the firewall simply says, no, that's geographically impossible.
Right. The wall does its job.
Today, if you have the right username and password, the right identity, the system doesn't care if you're in Chicago or waiting for a flight in London or sitting in a basement in St. Petersburg. If you can prove identity, you have access.
So geography became completely irrelevant. Where no longer matters. Who is everything.
And that is a terrifying simplifier for a criminal. They don't need to dig a tunnel under your wall. They just need to steal your badge, or more accurately, copy your badge.
This brings us to what feels like the core philosophical shift of this deep dive, from systems to trust flows.
Right. This is where it gets a little abstract, but really dangerous. Modern failure doesn't happen at a technical boundary. It forms where trust is delegated.
Let's unpack this cascaded list here. Trust delegated, verification stops, assumptions compound, authority spreads. It sounds like a domino effect.
It is. Okay, imagine you use a project management app, Monday.com, Trello, whatever. You log in with your work email, that's trust delegated. The app trusts your email provider.
Okay, so I'm in. I'm looking at my tasks.
Then verification stops. Once you're logged in, the app doesn't keep asking who you are every time you click a button. It just assumes you're you.
Right. Otherwise, it'd be super annoying. I'd never get anything done.
Then assumptions compound. Because you have access to the project app, maybe that app has permission to read files from your cloud storage. So now the cloud storage assumes the project app is legit, which assumes you are legit.
And suddenly, authority spreads. The keys to the kingdom are just floating around in the cloud.
Exactly. The vulnerability isn't that someone hacked the cloud storage code. It's that the mechanism for distributing authority, that chain of trust, is functioning, but it's being abused. If I compromise the first link in that chain, I get the whole chain.
I want to pause here and ask you, the listener, a question. Think about the apps you use for work right now. How many of them are connected to your email? Do you actually know who holds the authority in that chain? If one of those gets compromised, what else opens up? Tell us below in the comments, because once you start counting, it gets a little scary. I did this yesterday and I stopped at 15.
It's often dozens of apps, and most people have absolutely no idea.
So we've established the walls are gone and trust is flowing like water. The next section hits us with the hard reality. No one breaks in anymore.
This is the hard truth of it. Access already exists. Permissions are pre-granted.
It says automation executes with delegated legitimacy. That phrase, delegated legitimacy, is just chilling.
It means the system sees the action as legitimate. It sees a valid user with valid permissions executing a valid command. The system obeys authority signals, not intent. It doesn't know why you're transferring the money. It just knows you have the right to transfer the money.
So the shift described here is from protection to authentication. We went from keeping people out to trying to validate who is already in.
And that is a much, much harder job. Because once they're inside the club, everyone looks like a guest. You can't tell the good guys from the bad guys just by looking at them anymore.
Okay, so let's redefine the battlefield. The analysis calls this the real attack surface.
Right, because we spend all our time scanning what's on the traditional side. Servers, code repositories, network traffic, looking for those zero-day exploits. We're looking for technical bugs.
But the text says exposure actually concentrates in people and process junctions, delegated authority chains, automated trust decisions.
It's the processes. It's the permission inheritance patterns. It's the fact that if I become an admin, I inherit the ability to create other admins. That's a feature, not a bug. But to an attacker, it's a pathway.
Now, you might think, okay, but we have smart people monitoring this. We have eyes on it. But the next section explains why that doesn't really work. Why automation amplifies failure.
Automation is such a double-edged sword. It removes friction. We love friction removal because it makes business fast. But as the notes say, volume beats precision.
High-speed execution outpaces human verification capacity.
Right. If an automated script tries to access 10,000 files in a minute, a human analyst cannot possibly verify the legitimacy of each request in real time. It's impossible. You can't outclick a script.
And point number 3 here, structural failure. Even sophisticated users face system-level vulnerabilities. It's not just about being smart, it's about the sheer weight of the system working against you.
Which leads to what is probably the most controversial point for many managers, referenced in the failure of be careful section.
Oh, I love this part. It basically says, telling employees to be vigilant is nonsense.
It's not a security control. Attention doesn't scale. You can't maintain constant, perfect verification across hundreds of daily interactions.
The cognitive load limits. That rings so true. If I'm under pressure to get a report done by 5 p.m. on a Friday, my brain is not in security assessment mode. It's in get this done mode.
Exactly. And continuous verification is impossible. You can't stop to verify the authenticity of every single email, every click, every API call. If you did, you would never, ever get any work done. Relying on humans to be the firewall is a guaranteed failure mode.
Okay, I want to take a brief pause here. We are about to get into the real mechanics of financial loss. Next, how this actually hits the bank account. And you won't want to miss how this plays out. Make sure you subscribe to our NCWEBDEV YouTube channel right now so you don't miss any of the new stuff coming out. We're covering these structural shifts constantly, so hit that subscribe button.
It's worth it. The practical side of this is really where the rubber meets the road.
Absolutely. So moving on to the mechanics of loss. The subtitle here is Where Loss Actually Occurs.
And this is so interesting because, again, it counters that movie narrative. Loss doesn't happen during some dramatic intrusion event with sirens blaring and red lights flashing.
It lists admin privilege paths, payment rails, recovery flows, invoices.
Mundane, boring, operational stuff.
Normal business operations where authority intersects with consequences.
Think about it. An invoice is just a request for payment. If I can inject a fake invoice into a legitimate workflow and the system trusts the source because of that delegated authority we talked about, the money just leaves the building. It's not a hack, it's a transaction.
And look at payment rails and recovery flows. If I can trigger a password recovery flow, I'm using a safety feature, something designed to help you to steal the account.
Precisely. These are structural exposure points. They are the plumbing of the business. And that's where the value flows. The attackers are just tapping the pipes. They aren't trying to blow up the building. They're just rerouting the plumbing.
So if we can't rely on walls and we can't rely on human vigilance, what do we even have? The research pivots here to the role of friction.
This is the part everyone hates. Why platforms add friction.
Multi-factor authentication, session timeouts, device verification. I'll be honest, when I'm in a hurry and I get that enter the code sent to your phone prompt, I roll my eyes. I hate it. It feels like the computer's just nagging me.
We all do. It feels like an obstacle. But the analysis reframes this perfectly. These aren't hostility toward users. They are loss prevention controls embedded in high-risk workflows.
That is a completely different way to look at it.
Every friction point represents a decision junction. The system is saying, wait, hold on. I am about to grant a lot of authority or move money. I need to interrupt the automated trust flow and force a human confirmation.
It's a speed bump designed to stop a runaway car.
Exactly. If the attacker has your password, the only thing stopping them is that friction, that MFA code, that device check. It's the only time the system blinks and asks, are you really sure?
Be honest, listener. Do you roll your eyes when you get an MFA code request? Does knowing it's a loss prevention control change your mind at all? Or is it still just annoying? Leave a comment. I'm curious if we can change the culture on this.
It's a hard sell, but it's so necessary.
Now, we can't do a deep dive in 2026 without talking about AI. We have a section here titled Why AI Isn't the Cause.
Yeah, this is important because there is so much hype. AI accelerates execution speed. It speeds up content generation. It can write better phishing emails faster. It can mimic voices.
But the text is clear. It doesn't create the underlying trust vulnerabilities.
Right. AI can't manufacture authority. It can't magically bypass a hard verification requirement. It can just try all the locks on all the doors much, much faster.
Predates AI. These failure modes existed long before generative tech.
If you leave your front door unlocked, it doesn't matter if the burglar arrives on a bicycle or in a Ferrari. The vulnerability is the unlocked door. AI is just the Ferrari. It gets them there faster, but the structural flaw is ours.
That brings us to the updated threat model. This summarizes everything we've talked about into 4 characteristics of modern abuse.
This is a great framework for thinking up defenses. If you're running a business, you should write these down. Number 1, opportunistic. They exploit available access. They aren't trying to break new ground. They're looking for open doors.
Number 2, non-targeted. Volume-based rather than reconnaissance-driven. This one makes me feel less special, but somehow more vulnerable.
They aren't specifically coming for you. They are knocking on every single door on the internet simultaneously. If you happen to answer, you become the target. It's a numbers game.
Number 3, process-aware. Leverages normal workflows and expected patterns.
This is the invoice fraud, the password reset. They act like employees. They fit in. They speak the corporate language.
And number 4, legitimacy-driven. Operates within granted authority rather than against it.
And that is the hardest one to catch. Because technically they are allowed to do what they're doing because they have the credentials that say so. The system sees a badge, not a face.
This framework really does teach analytical thinking rather than just reactive fear, as the research suggests.
It takes the emotion out of it. It's just mechanics. And if you understand the mechanics, you can design a better machine.
We're reaching the end of the stack here. The conclusion offers a transition to reality.
So, to summarize the journey, we looked at the structural conditions. We saw how the architecture shifted from physical castles to these digital identity-based clouds. We saw how trust mechanisms themselves create the vulnerability.
And the notes mention that the next step, alluded to as February, is seeing how this all plays out in the real world.
Yeah.
Real workflows, actual loss patterns, and practical prevention.
Right, we've moved from the conceptual model to the observable reality. We understand the mechanism, the why. The next step is recognizing the exposure, the how.
It's moving from theory to implementation, from understanding mechanisms to recognizing exposure.
And that is crucial. You can't fix what you don't understand. Now that we know the problem isn't a weak firewall, but a blind trust in credentials, we can start to build better systems.
Systems that maybe introduce a little bit of that healthy friction we talked about.
Exactly. Sometimes you just have to slow down to be safe.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought. We spent this whole time talking about how speed and automation and the removal of friction have created these vulnerabilities.
Right. We optimize everything for convenience.
And if the inside and outside are truly gone, as you said, maybe the only true security we have left is slowing things down, reintroducing the very friction we've tried so hard to remove.
It's a paradox, isn't it? We built technology to go fast, but safety might require us to go slow.
That raises a huge question for you and your workplace. Does your organization value speed over verification? If you had to choose, which side of that trade-off makes you more nervous? Being too slow and losing business, or being too fast and losing everything?
That is the million-dollar question, literally.
Drop a comment below with your thoughts on that trade-off. I know it's a tough one. Thank you for listening to this deep dive. We hope you look at your login screen a little differently tomorrow. And once again, don't forget to check out the NCWEBDEV channel for more insights.
You stay safe out there.
See you next time.